Hello and welcome to Console Shock, retro and modern gaming chat with me, Trev, and as always, Stu. How's it going, Stu? I hope you're absolutely spot on.
Oh, top of the morning, Trevor.
Good to hear it. Talking of mornings, you're struggling with them now, aren't you? After coming back from your holiday.
Yeah, I'm getting up very early, so bit of jet lag and stuff like that. But I think I'm through the worst of it now. I'm through the worst of it.
Yeah, because you crawl out of bed at like midday, I guess.
Well, yeah, normally, yeah. Crawl out of bed midday, Yeah.
Step on the kebab on the side of the bed on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what was that show? Game On. It's like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to love that show.
90s, sort of 20-somethings, all sort of flat sharing in London. It is exactly how it is, isn't it? I would say.
Exactly. That's what living in London is like when you can't leave the house. I wonder if they remade Game On, but with based
Gen Z.
Sort of based in 2026, where the main character will just sit online all day. It will just be completely different. Working
from home, taking pictures of their avocado toast. No, wait, that's us, isn't it? That's millennials who did the avocado toast thing that everyone thought was like annoying. Probably would be as edgy. Not that I would say Game On was massively edgy, but by today's standards, it might be. I don't really know if I try to make it now. So yeah. Anyway, enough about 90s obscure British TV shows that probably wouldn't really resonate with anyone, under the age of 30 and also not British. And we have a few of those floating around in our audience. I'm sure we do. Let's talk about, video games, I suppose. Tends to be a thing we like to cover on this show a little bit. And it's been a while since we last had a show. So we're kind of thinking that we're not really going to focus on one thing. Obviously, that will happen in, as normal in future shows. But we're going to talk about the end of sort of 2025 and, any new games or games generally that we may have bought in the various sales, like the Steam sale, for example, that happened, anything we've been playing particularly. And then we're in 2026 now. There is going to be some gaming things happening in 2026 or things that we hope might happen. And I think we'll touch upon that as well, like how the year ahead, sort of the coming year looks. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, I guess to start off, we could talk about the Steam sale. Actually, it's always a fairly great thing that we all look forward to. I mean, there's quite a lot of those, to be honest, sales nowadays. It's not really the one big Christmas one. Did you dive in and pick anything up?
Yeah, I'm just looking. You probably see me looking at my screen here. So I bought 4 games. I got Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown.
I've got that. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
I very briefly bought it. I think in a sale as well. And I think I literally at one stage I did have a go of it. I think it was on my Steam Deck. And that was I think I bought it about a year and a bit ago now. I played like the first half an hour because it's kind of a tutorial first stage. I think I did a little bit of the next kind of regular mission.
That's all I've done. And it does.
It seemed good. It didn't grab me massively. I do want to go back into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the same for me is I need to persevere with it. But anyway, go into the games that I bought, actually I bought, Ace Combat 7, and then a game called Mega Bonk. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have, yeah. People are going berserk over that, aren't they?
Yeah. So that was in the sale, and it's sort of like a 3D version of Vampire Survivors, and I'm a big fan of Vampire Survivors. So I've started playing that, and I'm sort of trying to pick games in the Steam sale, which will also work on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. So it's funny you should mention like Megabonk actually, because it's the same with Vampire Survivors. There seem to be games where there's no real big hype or build up, and then they can't just come out. And then all of a sudden, like the next day or the day after or the week after, there's a billion articles on game sites and everyone's playing this game. And like, how did people know that this is going to be a good game to buy? I'm always a bit, obviously, I guess there's people that watch, videos of things that are coming out that aren't in channels and stuff that I float around, or websites that have articles on this stuff. They always seem to just come out and are instantly popular with no kind of build up. Unlike, the next Assassin's Creed, where you've got a year of articles about the development and screenshots and, and all that.
Yeah. It's weird because there are so many indie games, and I want to talk about it a little bit later. But over the year, I played sort of 3 or 4 different sort of indie games. Well, but actually, I probably played more than that. But then some of them, you actually go, oh, hold on, this is generally, a really good game, and I quite enjoy the process of sort of coming across these indie games and trying something different. And there's been quite a few over the year, which we'll talk about what we've been playing, but that I've actually genuinely really, really enjoyed and have been the highlights sort of gaming-wise. Because I think before I was always, AAA games or Call of Duty, or that's AAA game, I suppose, or, the big Nintendo titles. And that was really, what I played. But now I think Game Pass is good for this. It's obviously introducing them to you. But, to answer your question about how I think people... big streamers and stuff like that start playing it because, to go back to Vampire Survivors, I remember watching Review Tech USA, and he would have it in the background, and I'll be like, oh, cool, what's this game? What's going on? And then other people will talk about it, and then so I thought, well, it's on Game Pass, I'll give it a go, and then installing it, 2 minutes, and then away you go, you're playing it, and it's really good, but then some have been a bit rubbish, or not rubbish, but it's not a game for you. So I've really enjoyed Mega Bonk, but I've not really got far into it yet.
Yeah, I did like Vampire Survivors, so I don't think it needs very high specs. So I think it would probably work on it. I think it does work on a Steam Deck. Is it certified?
Right, that's what I've been playing on the Steam Deck. Yeah, so it's
those sort of games are ideal, aren't they? Handheld games,
exactly. And then talking about sort of handheld, sort of indie-esque games, I've got Hades, the first one, because a lot of people talk about that, and I'm trying to get games that are suitable for the Steam Deck, so I picked that one up. And then the other 2 games are not controversial, but it's quite funny. Have you played Resident Evil 4, the new version?
I'm actually playing it right now. I'm in the middle of it. It's one I was probably going to end up talking about anyway. I think I'm on chapter 11, so I think I'm near the end. I'm in the castle, but I'm at the end of the castle where what's her name? The girl you got to rescue, the president's daughter. She's gone off with the big tall bad.
Well, hold on. I've just started it, Trev. No spoilers here.
Yeah. Don't worry, that's not the ending. There's more stuff after this.
Yeah,
but you end up in a castle. But yeah, that's how far in. But it's really good. It runs great on a Steam Deck as well.
That's it, because I installed it on my PC the other day, and I sort of playing it with a mouse and keyboard, and I was like, I didn't like it, and I don't like play anyway. So I actually uninstalled it after playing it for about sort of 20 minutes. But then I thought, actually, I played it on my Steam Deck. That'd be, because then it's got the controller, and it won't have the funny sort of motion sickness and sort of jerky camera and stuff you get with the mouse and keyboard. So I'm going to go back and play it a bit more seriously now on the Steam Deck. But then, yes, I'm sort of looking forward to that. But then the other game I got actually wasn't in the sale, but I've been away on holiday, and out of the blue, my girlfriend's sister said, "Oh, her friend, she knows that I sort of like computer games and things like that." She says, "Oh, my friend has made a computer game, or it's on Steam." And I was like, "Oh, okay, right. What is it then?"
It's Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah. Black Ops 7. Yeah. So her friend made a game called Jellies of the Deep. So I looked on there, and it was £3. So I not knowing what it was, I bought it. And it's this
hentai tentacle game or something.
Well, Tentacle's quite close there. But it's this game where you're sort of looking almost into like a fish tank type thing, and then there are all these sort of different sort of sea creatures going around, and they're all in sort of pairs or threes, but then one of them will be slightly different to the other one of the pair, and then you've got to try and spot it. And then you click on it, and then you get onto the next level, and they get a little bit harder. And I don't know, it's kind of peaceful, and you know,
one of those chill games, so there's not too much stress involved.
It's I'm sort of like, oh, actually, yeah, I've just like yesterday, I was playing a new Star Wars game on Game Pass, and I was like, well, actually, yeah, I want to go back to that Jelly to the Deep, and I did a few more sort of screens. I wouldn't say levels, but screens of that, and I don't know. I found it sort of quite relaxing before I went to bed. So you know, I don't want to sort of say go out and buy it, but it's
you're playing it on the Steam Deck.
No, I'm playing it on PC.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, on the PC. So again, it's very mouse heavy. So, you know, you go around sort of clicking on things, and that'll probably work on the Steam Deck fine. So so that's what I've been playing, and also not Steam Deck related, but not Steam sale related, but in the Switch or Nintendo, I did get FC26 for the Switch.
Oh, brother!
Yeah,
casual, such a filthy casual.
And I got
next, you're going to tell me I bought Call of Duty, then I bought Assassin's Creed, then I bought what other casual games are there?
I have got Call of Duty.
Yes.
I have got Call of Duty.
Yeah,
and but I mean, it's one of those things where I think I get a football game, and it's just good when you're. You know, you just go on there and you just play a few games, and then you might not play it for a week, then you go back to it, and then you might play it for a little bit heavier, and then you might not play it for a few weeks, and I'll
be honest. It's one thing I do miss with the Steam Deck. You can't play those latest FIFA games or FC games. Sorry, I've been slightly tempted to get a Switch 2 because that's a fairly a handheld way where you can play those games handheld. They've got their own version. Obviously, the latest FC is pretty much the same kind of a game and engine that you get on the PS5, so you're not really missing out on anything anymore, but there's still that thing where I'm like, well, to be honest, there's been times when I've thought I should just get myself like a second-hand ROG Ally X, so I can use that as my Windows machine. I could bung FIFA on there. I haven't got to rebuy like any of my Steam games to play those on that if I wanted to, just because it's a bit more powerful. I can dial up the settings or play any of those anti-cheat games that struggle on Linux, or anything that struggles on Linux, really, anti-cheat or otherwise. I could just do that, and that's what's kind of keeps stopping me from getting the Switch, because I don't really want to. If there's a game that's out on the Switch multi-plat, I'm not really going to want to buy it on that. I'm going to be like, well, I'll just buy it on Steam, and I can run it on whatever gadget I end up having, whenever. Obviously, the Nintendo exclusives, also, that's a different story. But so that's probably how I might end up doing it if I see a good deal on like a Windows handheld of some kind. But yeah, here's the one thing that I do probably miss the most is just having that quick access to the latest EAFC game, because I do like playing those games. And you're right, they're a good genre of game where you can do the career mode, but you can just dive in and play a couple of games for like half an hour. Or you could spend 4 hours, playing and, getting through a big chunk of a season. There isn't cut scenes you've got to watch, really. You could just have the telly on in the background and be playing EAFC. There's not a huge amount of games where you can kind of do that. And it's good on the Switch then, on the Switch too.
Well, I mean, I read reviews and people say, it's 30 frames a second. And and I've only played it in a handheld mode. And I mean, to me, it feels absolutely fine, and I can't fault it. And maybe if on Monday I was playing it on my PC at 120 frames a second, and then I went to play on the Switch, I might find it a little bit jarring. but I'm probably not going to play it on any other system. So it feels absolutely fine on the Switch too, and sometimes is I've what I find with a lot of games is I actually like to cap the frame rate to 60 or 90 or whatever, so then you don't get that sort of jerkiness that you might get from suddenly it's at 140, then it's at 80, then it's at 120, and it's the jerkiness of the frames that can be a little bit offsetting. So actually having a 30 or 60, obviously
it's like rock solid.
So you want a sort of a solid frame rate, and people are going, oh yeah, but it does drop frames, or it's not great on that. But I'm not I don't play it online. I'm not looking for a competitive thing. It's just really to have a couple of games of football on there, and that's really sort of what I'm looking for from it.
It's a good thing to touch upon, actually, frame rate, because there is something that I'd like to talk about that I've been doing on my Steam Deck, and that's a little bit of software called Lossless Scaling.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, so it's on sale quite often, but it's just been on sale, and it's like £3 or something I paid for it. It might have been slightly less than that, actually. It hasn't been able to work on the Steam Deck for most of the time the Steam Deck's been around, but recently people have been managed to getting it to work fairly easily with just a little bit of tinkering, as long as you've got Decky Loader installed, which I think most people really should install on their Steam Deck. It's very easy. Allows you to download little tiny apps that you can access from that right-hand menu that do a lot of stuff that doesn't come by default with your Steam Deck. Like little apps that help you with external controllers, and loads of little help to organize your library, help to organize emulators, and get artwork for your games that might not have it by default. Little cool little things like that. And there's now something that helps you get lossless scaling working. And I've been using it on my Steam Deck, and it is pretty cool. I have used it with Oblivion Remastered, which is a little bit of a mixed bag, because you kind of need a really good... Basically what it is, I didn't really say what it is. It's a frame generation tool. Now, a lot of games come with frame generation built in. They use either NVIDIA's frame generation or AMD's frame generation. They're either part of the drivers of your graphics card, or some games actually have it. They've kind of built it into the game. But there's a lot of games that don't. And lossless scaling is something that you can use. Well, you can use them on games that already have that instead of the one that it came with. Or you can use it on games that don't have it at all. And I mean, basically anything that's kind of running in a window, you can have, even like videos and things like that. It will double the frame rate on, or you can actually you can quadruple the frame rate. And it basically takes key frames that are being spat out by your graphics card, and it then fills the lack of frames in between by looking at motion vectors and what parts of the screen are doing, and it generates like a frame that is the middle ground between those before and after frames to fill in a frame. Depending on how much of a factor you're increasing the frame rate, obviously there'll be more generated frames. So 2x, you're doubling it, 3x, 4x, you can kind of work out, how many generated frames. So it's frame generation. It's a post-process frame generation tool, which is a little bit different to the ones that NVIDIA sort of have built into the graphics cards and AMD have built into the graphics cards. They are actually part of the graphic pipeline. So basically they get access to the graphics as they're kind of being drawn by the graphics card, so they can see precisely where an arm is going or like the scenery is shifting to. So the lag that can produce is a bit less than what lossless scaling can do, because lossless scaling has got to wait for your graphics card to spit the frame out, then it'll do its work. So there's a little bit of extra lag it will add on. So ideally, you want a fairly decent solid frame rate as a baseline. But a good example on the Steam Deck is like Oblivion Remastered isn't brilliant because it does have quite bad 1% lows on the Steam Deck of 15, 16 frames a second, and then it's kind of a sketchy 25 to 30, sometimes a bit more when you're out in the open world. So when you slap lossless scaling on top of that, it will double those frames, but you're going to kind of maybe hover around 60 frames. and you're also adding a dollop of lag on top of that, that's going to be a little bit worse feeling than the lag you've already got natively from, you know, the actual real frame rate that you're getting. So it's not a brilliant way to do it. It does look a bit better, though, when you've got a stable frame rate at certain points in the game when you can get that. But really well-optimized PC game like Resident Evil, one that runs pretty well, and you can lock that down to 30 frames a second on the Steam Deck. And if you dial some graphic settings down, you can even kind of get it more like a fairly solid 40. If you then activate lossless scaling on top of that, you can jump that frame rate up to 70, 80 frames a second. And it feels good. Again, there is a bit of lag. I'm not crazy sensitive to lag, but it feels responsive. It doesn't feel like you're really taking a big hit. Again, because that base frame rate it's working with is pretty solid. It's a fairly stable sort of feeling game in terms of the controls and the lag. But yeah, it looks smoother. There is a bit, you do get some artifacts with lossless scaling. I understand now it's better than it used to be. I never used it before until recently. Things like ghosting and smeariness and stuff was worse. It's still a bit of a factor now, but it's not that bad.
But on the small screen, you probably wouldn't notice it as much, would you?
Yeah, you don't really. I mean,
no.
Playing Resident Evil 4 plugged into my living room TV, which is a 65-inch TV. And I am running a low resolution because it's the Steam Deck. So it's 720p the game is running at. But I'm not using any kind of upscaling. It is just completely native 720p, which looks pretty sharp and pretty decent on a 4K TV. But also, when you've got that frame rate nudged up by lossless scaling, it does look like real 60 frames plus per second. It doesn't really look fake. It probably you only really know from the feeling of the extra lag, but it doesn't feel too bad. So someone like yourself, Stu, I mean, especially on your rig that you kind of, your desktop rig, the scaling obviously is really is a Windows bit of software. It's kind of been fudged to get working on the Steam Deck, and it does work great on the Steam Deck. But you could play some of those games where perhaps you're getting a pretty good frame rate, maybe a locked 60 frames a second on whatever game. You could potentially slap on lossless scaling on that game, and then you might be able to get it to hit like your monitor refresh rate. If you've got like 120 hertz monitor, you've got Call of Duty is running at 60 on your rig. You could turn on lossless scaling 2x, and you'll get 120 hertz, and it will look exactly like 120 hertz. And because you're running it from a fairly high base frame rate, I don't think you'll have too much problem with lag. You might feel it a little bit more with mouse controls, which are very quick and responsive. But certainly a game like Resident Evil 4, I mean, I'm sure that runs easily at 60 on your setup on your desktop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you could if you're using a controller, and you're saying like it does feel better for you with a controller, and it is kind of a controller-centric game, really. That's what it was designed around. You don't really feel the lag as much because it's a laggy control technique anyway. The best of times, a controller. So you could really 60 frames a second if you can get a lock on that on your desktop. You get lossless scaling, turn it on, and you'll get 2x the frame rate, you'll get like 120 frames a second, and it'll feel pretty good and responsive. And let's say you go and get a 240 hertz monitor later down the line, you could turn it up to 3 times or 4 times, and you'll be able to hit that refresh rate. I mean, that's kind of the end game of frame rates for graphics, I think, is to just, they'll be so good at some point, they'll just always be at the maximum frame rate of the display. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen anytime soon, but maybe eventually that'll be where graphics will end up. They'll look great, but they'll just be naturally hitting the maximum frame rate. Oh, that's also something we had to worry about in the 8 and 16-bit days. Games are pretty much always 60 frames a second, 2D games. So they're always hitting that. That was basically all TVs then were 60 hertz, Although there was like VGA monitors were like 70 and 80 and 90 and things like that in those days. But yeah, it's something I'd recommend you. You should give it a go.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at it.
It's pretty cheap. It's like, I don't think it's on sale anymore on Steam, but it's only about £7 or £8. But also because it works, it's not tied to your graphics drivers or particular graphics card, or if the game supports NVIDIA frame generation or whatever. You could just use it on anything. Things like PS3 games. So, games that are maybe locked forever to 30 frames a second. And on real PS3, they might have been a bit juddery and they never really hit 30 frames a second. Obviously, there was lots of PS triple games that had problems with that. With our PCS3 on a PC, probably you can just brute force those games now, can't you, to hit 30 frames a second? But, some games you can hack and you can unlock them to get to 60. But if you can't be bothered to do that, or those games sometimes break because they're not designed to run.
They're not designed,
yeah. You can use lossless scaling on those games, and you'll get a lock 30 PS3 game to look and nearly, in terms of lag, feel like a native 60 frames a second game. And it even works for like weird stuff like NES games. You could probably get them to sort of run at 120 frames. I don't know how well that works. I'm sure there's YouTube videos, but but it's not really like some people really blow it out of proportion for the Steam Deck and say it saved my Steam Deck. It's a game that ran at 10 frames a second. I now run it at 30 and it feels great. I mean, I got Space Marine in the sale, Warhammer Space Marine 2, which is a very heavy game, one of the heaviest of the current gen. I mean, it doesn't run. You can't really get it at a locked 60 on a PS5. You probably can on the PS. If you put it in performance mode, it won't go anywhere. It'll be around 60, but it'll drop. I think on a PS5 Pro it can. But yeah, on like a Steam Deck, if you run it at the native frame rate at low settings, I mean, I was lucky to get. When there's nothing on the screen, you'll get 40 frames a second. But as soon as you get all these hordes of bad guys, it's like a Dynasty Warriors type game where you're just surrounded by tons of very complex, geometry animated characters, hundreds of them at once. The frame rate absolutely tanks to just about 10 or 15. You can slap frame gen on that, but and it will look a bit like 30 frames a second, but it absolutely does not feel like it. It'll be 30 frames a second, but with 15 frames a second of responsiveness. So I kind of gave up. But it's okay. It's sat in my Steam library. When I get a more powerful handheld at some point, I'll be able to play it a lot better. I'm happy to wait. That's the beauty of PC gaming, isn't it? You upgrade your hardware, your games come with you. You haven't got to rebuy the remake, remaster.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's one of definitely the benefits of it, and I'm certainly feeling that now. The more and more games you get in your Steam library, and you go back and it's good.
Yeah, and in terms of the sale, although weirdly, I think the first thing that I made a big point of, there was two sort of things that I made a big point of playing. I had Max Payne in my library for years.
Oh, right. I've got that. Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, I played the original on the original Xbox. I think I got through the first 3 or 4 chapters, and I was like, when the Xbox was the current gen, when I was like 20, 21 or 22. And I just got bored of it and went to something else, and I don't think I really touched it. Then I tried getting it running on my Steam Deck about a year or 2 ago, and there was a couple of things I had to fiddle with, and I couldn't be asked. But I actually sat down and did it. I got it working, and it ran brilliantly. And I completely, really loved it, and I finished it in a couple of days.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I thought, right, I'll get Max Payne 2, which is like £4 or something. And I completely ran through that and completed that over a couple of days. I've got Max Payne 3, which came out much later, like 10 years later. I think.
Completely different game, isn't it?
Yeah. Kind of almost like kind of Grand Theft Auto-y vibe kind of game. So I'm going to play that at some point. But yeah, those first two I rinsed through, and then kind of.
What did you think? Obviously, you're very. Because I remember I played Max Payne 1. I've still got it installed on my PC here. But it was really quite. Sometimes you go back and play these old games, and you don't realise how unforgiving the features are, because you have to go around looking for health, and then you die, and you go back to the beginning, and you've got to do loads of things again, or you've got to constantly saving, and it got a little bit sort of like, oh God, Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it is a difficult game. There's no easy mode. There's just the default mode that you start off with, and then when you complete it the first time, you unlock harder modes. But I was not going to touch those. The amount of time it would take me to play it in a harder mode, I could play another game, which is basically what I did when I played the sequel straight after. But I mean, for starters, there's very limited joypad support, but because of the Steam controller profiles, I was able to apply the mouse and keyboard controls to the controls of the Steam Deck, and I tweaked the sensitivity of the mouse movement to feel like a joystick, really. And I actually tuned it way down to like 50% sensitivity from like 300%, and that felt really like good. It felt like a native, like the Xbox version of the game, and I was able to pinpoint shots, and it felt like a real game. I feel like a native joypad game. But yeah, you've got to basically you just got to save scum the hell all the way, hell out of it. Basically, thankfully you can save at any point. You just assign the quick save button to one of the keys on the Steam Deck or whatever controller you're playing it with. If it's through Steam, you can apply those, make the keyboard controls work on a controller through Steam. Do that, and then, once you get through, if you die on a difficult part, just make sure you save as you're about to hit that part, or just save every, 5 minutes or something. So then at least when you die, you won't get whizzed back to God knows how far back. It's not like Alien Isolation where you could do stuff for an hour and you'll die, and there's no checkpoints or anything. You have to manually save at these very specific areas where you save, and there's nothing in between. That's why that game is so scary, because when you're like, I need to get to the save point because I'm going to die at any moment now. So yeah, there was that. So yeah, definitely a great game to play on this. Runs beautifully. Look, it's a very old game. And there was a weird one where I found in my PC sort of DVD box, the actual physical games collection that I've got. I saw the 2013 Star Trek game. So when the second J.J. Abrams Star Trek film came out, Into Darkness, there was a game that came out on the 360 and the PS3. It's just called Star Trek. You can't buy it anymore on Steam. It got delisted years ago because of rights and licenses. But I had a physical copy, and this was like 2013, so it was right at the last couple of years when you'd be able to get physical copies, reliably of a game. And I thought, I wonder if this code works on Steam that you get with it. And I put it in the serial key, and it worked. It added it to my Steam library, and I was like, oh wow, cool. And I played that game when it came out, and I kind of got bored of it and left it after about 3 or 4 missions in on the Xbox 360. Because I had a copy of it on that, and I ended up completing that as well. And it's actually not a bad game. It's a third-person, over-the-shoulder shooter, basically. Not particularly Star Trek-y in terms of most of the games for that series franchise are often, RTS games and things. Not many action games. That's just a pure action game, and it was quite enjoyable. Ran a lot better than it did. It ran great. It's actually unsupported on the Steam Deck, is what Valve have listed it as, but it ran perfect. All the controls work. The graphics look fine. You can jack it up to
no one's tried to get it working, have they? Because
it's not listed anymore. So
it's not listed, is it? So they're not going to even test it, are they? So yeah,
I'll submit a report and tell them it works fine if I could be bothered. But when I docked the Steam Deck on my TV, I could even jack the resolution up to like 1440p with that game, and it ran at like 90 frames a second with all the graphics to high. It looked brilliant, looked way better than also the 360 version, which was just 30 and, jagged as all get out when you play it now. And I actually looked at what I bought, and I bought about 20 games in the sale. But I don't think
did you? What else did you get?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go through them, I guess, and give a quick little thought, because we'll be here all night otherwise, and I want to sort of see what you did as well. But I don't think I paid more than about 70 or 80 quid for that entire load of games. But got Far Cry 3, which again is a game I did play on the 360 and got to a certain point and just moved on to another game, but it's always been in my mind. I need to go back and play that again. But I saw it I thought that would be a great Steam Deck game, because it will run really well. It's an older game. It should run, like butter. And it's kind of one of those games that you can dip in and out of sort of thing and do a little chunk here and there. So looking forward to that. The remaster of Croc, Legend of the Gobbos,
Yeah.
like that game when I was, a kid on like the PlayStation and probably the Saturn version. Weirdly, is the one that I played the most.
Well, I've got it in my mind. Remakes. Did you get that Terminator 2 game?
No, I do want to. But
I've wishlisted it.
I've wishlisted it. Yeah, I mean, most people are saying the same thing here that I'm about to say, but it's like I think it was like 20, 27, 28 quid, and everyone's saying it's like 4 hours long, 2 hours if you're good at it. It's not really worth 28, 29 quid. I mean, I don't like to say, well, they're a developer that put a lot of heart and soul in. They probably deserve 28 or 29 quid. Obviously, they're not getting that whole amount because Steam are taking a chunk, but it's probably going to be one. Unfortunately, it'll be one that I'm going to wait till it's about a tenner or 15 quid. And that's probably, I'm guessing that's probably what you're thinking as well if you've wishlisted it.
Yeah, because I know with some of those games I'm actually absolutely, terrible at them. So I'll have to play it on easy mode or whatever. But I just love the look of it, and it really feels like, everyone goes, oh, it looks like a Super Nintendo, it looks like a Mega Drive game. No, it looks 10 times better than that, in all honesty. It does look
there is like a bit of a reality filter with that, the marketing in that game. Well, maybe not the marketing. They haven't said this themselves, the developers or the people that, whatever agency has spat out the adverts for it. But there is a bit of a narrative online of, we finally got a good Terminator retro game. And I was like, no, there was loads of really good Terminator games back in the day. There was the Mega CD Terminator game, which is a run and gun. That was great.
Well, that's it. It's with this type of game is, it's almost like making the game, for the Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo area, but then you've got as much power as you can possibly want, and you can do really whatever you want with it, and you're not limited by storage space or anything.
That's right. Yeah,
I think it's I think it does look really good. Really good sort of features in there. So I'm I've got the same opinion as you. It's like, well, I don't want to spend 28 quid on there. I could buy 5 or 6 other. I think all the games I bought came to about sort of 25 quid on Steam. So I'm kind of thinking, well, actually, I might get that and just get stuck on the second level because I'm not particularly good at that type of game. So I think I'll keep an eye on the sales for it and then give it a go.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure I'll pick it up. But yeah, Croc again. The original was great. It's got I did have tank controls and stuff like that back in the day, but you can now play with more modern controls. It's a really light game, so it runs like butter on the Steam Deck, 90 frames a second. You could even dock the Steam Deck and jack the resolution up, and you could still get 90, 100 plus frames a second. It's been enjoyable going through that game again with much sort of more modern, graphics and controls. Probably some quick fire ones here. Aliens Fireteam Elite, which is another sort of third person. I was a big fan of the Alien games. Already mentioned Alien Isolation today, but yeah, that's kind of a third person shoot 'em up, sort of slightly tactical game. But again, that was like £5 or something. A Space Marine or Warhammer Bolt Gun, which is like a boomer shooter.
Oh yeah, I'll play that. That's on Game Pass at one point. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a good game.
Yeah, I think it was like £2 or £3. So I thought I'd wishlisted it for ages. So I've got that one. Stray, which is the game where you play as a cat.
Yes,
adventure game. Yeah, big fan of cats generally. I did have some cats. So yeah, that appealed to me anyway, but again, very cheap now, £5 or something. Space Marine 2 runs like absolute dog shit on the Steam Deck, but PC it'll run fine. When there's whatever next handheld I get, I'm sure the Steam Deck 2 will run it really well, so it's there for that really. Need for Speed Heat, which people don't really are bothered about Need for Speed anymore these days, but everyone says that one was a good one, which was one of the more recent ones.
Would that be an EA game? Does that work on the Steam Deck?
Well, this is the it does. That's what I think it says. It's completely compatible. But there's loads of EA games that don't use anti-cheat, which that
okay, yeah, right.
that work on the Steam Deck. So yeah, Detroit Become Human. I like the Quantic Dream games like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls on the PS Triple. I love those. and this is another Quantic Dream game. Again, it was very cheap. Quake 4.
Oh wow! I've got that on. I've got that on DVD.
On the Xbox 360.
No, on my PC, and yes, I've actually played that on my old Windows XP PC, and it's a good game. It just feels like a more fast-paced Doom 3. Basically, it's the same engine as Doom 3, so
quite Halo-y. Still looks pretty good. It was a 360 launch game, but it kind of runs like dog shit on the 360. But on the Steam Deck, you have to tweak it a little bit because it's a slightly older game, but you can get it to run at 60 frames a second and with max settings, and it looks pretty modern, to be honest. And it's fun, kind of basically a boomer shooter, really, but kind of a modern-ish boomer shooter. Runs great on the Steam Deck. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, game that absolutely got hammered when it came out, and everyone said it was rubbish. But it was literally like, I've never seen a discount as big as this, but it used to be like £60 when it came out. It was £2.50. So I thought, I like the Batman Arkham games. This is a kind of a spin-off of that. So I grabbed it. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is a game that I've liked for a long time. I got that in the sale as well. Again, a game that I played quite a bit on the Xbox 360 and got so far into it. Same story, went off and did something else and left it, and it was always in my mind, like, I should try and play it again. Again, I saw it in the sale, and I thought, God, that'll be a really good Steam Deck game because it's fairly old now and it should run really well. Super Lucky's Tale, actually completed that game, but I think it's one that I might revisit, and it was, again, a couple of quid, so I thought, I'll get that. Again, should be one that will be great on a handheld because it's a fairly light game. Couple of all the Oddworld games. There's Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, Munch's Odyssey. They're all literally like 50p or something on Steam. They all apparently all work on the Steam Deck. The first two are like cinematic platformers. Like
I know, I remember them on the PlayStation 1, yeah.
Yeah, they're quite odd, a little bit cryptic, but if you like Flashback and Another World and those sort of things, it's a slightly more recent, although, they still are from the 90s, take on those. And then lastly, I got Carmageddon Max Pack, which is the original Carmageddon, which is a 90s sort of racing game where you basically run people over. It's very controversial. Back in the day, it's a DOS game, actually, but it does run on the Steam Deck. And the last one was a game called Expendable, which some people might know as Millennium Soldier, which was a PS1, and it was a Dreamcast game, also on the PC. It's like a top-down, it should be a twin-stick shooter, but this is before twin-stick controls were really sort of figured out on consoles. So you use a single stick, and it's very clunky to control. So you got to fiddle around to try and get the controls to work. But it's a game from like the late 90s, and it actually runs really well on the Steam Deck. But I used to love the game. I remember playing the demo on the PS1 and thinking this was great fun. I'm going to get this when I was a kid, teenager. And it was also on the Dreamcast. I remember playing it on that and finding it a lot of fun. And I saw it on the Steam store. Didn't even know it was on the Steam store. Again, for 60p or something. So that is basically everything I got, and Lossless Scaling as well.
Oh yeah.
That was in the sale. That was the stuff that I picked up. Again, I probably spent no more than £60-70 for all of that. I think the most pricey thing in there was probably Space Marine 2. I think that was about 20 quid, down from 60. So it's not too bad. I mean, PC games probably are a bit more expensive buying them day one than they would have been in the olden days where you bought a box. But that's probably because, especially when they're on Steam would sort of take 30%, just like you would if you released a game on a console where Sony would take that chunk from you. So they kind of have to make up for that now. So things cost about the same on a PC. Back in the day, you just got a box made, chucked the disc in a box, and shipped it out to a retailer. No publisher is really, or there isn't a storefront that's taking your money in those days. So a game on the PS1 would be 50 quid, whereas the PC version in those days would be 30, wouldn't it? In those days, so you were getting a really good deal.
Yeah, they'd always be a bit cheaper, wouldn't they? So So I wanted to sort of touch upon. I sort of mentioned it earlier, but what I've been, not sort of, I guess, my sort of game of the year and I'll ask you the same question as well. But I think I made a quick list of all the games I completed this year, so you can see me looking at my phone now. So Indiana Jones, Crypt Custodian, Mario Kart World. I'll say I completed it. I did a lot of it. Outer Worlds 2, really enjoyed that. Ball Pit, that was really good. Gears Reloaded, really enjoyed that. And one I thought you would have played by now is RoboCop and Doom: The Dark Ages. So have you not touched upon RoboCop yet? Or
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it from Steam. I think again I got it in a sale, not the one we just talked about, but I got it about a year ago now. It's definitely going to be one that's on my upcoming list to play. I did play the demo and I really enjoyed it.
It's absolutely cracking game. It feels like you're in the movie. And
RoboCop didn't really get. Well, I'll probably say RoboCop versus Terminator on the Mega Drive was probably the best RoboCop game. That was genuinely really good. Again, like a kind of a run and gun game. But there was like a terrible Xbox game, I think, and there was a few other attempts. But this sounds like it's kind of been done justice, finally.
It's Trevor, play it as soon as you can. It genuinely is really, really good. And
actually, another point on that as well. I think the same people that made that game made Terminator Resistance, which I did play and complete. Kind of a Fallout-ish Terminator game. That's really good. So I could probably say to you in reverse, get yourself Terminator Resistance if you liked RoboCop. Same people made that game. And it's really about 8 hours long. It is an open world-ish game, but it's quite straightforward to get through, but it's very enjoyable. And it's probably on sale. It's been out for a few years now. I think I got it in a sale. It was like tenner or something, but it's absolutely worth it. It's a very good game.
It's 25 quid at the moment, so
find a dodgy key. Well, not a dodgy key.
I don't do dodgy keys. Anyway, so the two games I want to talk about and then mention my game of the year is so Ball Pit is absolutely love that. It's sort of like a breakout type game and a really good sort of independent game. And then the other one was Crypt Custodian, and I probably put about 20 hours into that and ended up sort of completing it. And it was this brilliant sort of indie, over the top or overhead view Metroidvania, and absolutely really enjoyed that. But the game I think I enjoyed the most, again I recommend you playing this, is Indiana Jones and something about a circle or something, Circle of Truth.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it was like an Xbox exclusive, wasn't it, for a little bit?
Xbox, it's on everything now. So it's not on Switch, but I'll certainly recommend getting that. And it was just, again, that felt like you were in the movie. RoboCop felt like you were in the movie, and so I think on this year, the thing I'm probably most looking forward to is finding these little individual what's it called, sort of gems of indie games, and some of them might be a load of rubbish, some might be really good. So I'm sort of looking forward to that. But what would you say your game of the year? It doesn't have to be new. What's new to you? Or
I
new,
probably would
or
struggle to. I don't often play the absolute latest game because I tend to play them maybe a couple of years later when they've gone on sale or something, which shows how much of a stingy sort of person I am. But there's been a few that I've kind of played through this year that I've really enjoyed. Dead Space Remake, I finished that a couple of months ago. I love the original Dead Space game, so there was no real danger that I would dislike this, but they did a really good job with the remake. It runs fairly well on the Steam Deck. It's a shame I sort of played it before I bought Lossless Scaling, because you can sort of get a good base frame rate of 30 on that, and then potentially I could have slapped on the Lossless Scaling and got it up to 60. But I really enjoyed it. It was different. It was like a lot of the more janky sections were sort of fixed, like the flying that you have to do was a lot easier to control, more modern. The story wasn't really changed much, and it kind of panned out the way the first one does. But if you're going to play original Dead Space, I would definitely recommend the remake. They did a really good job. I really enjoyed it. What I'm playing at the moment, Resident Evil 4, is really, really enjoyable. I did Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake, and this is probably the best one. Those were both of those were brilliant. So I'd probably recommend those as well. But 4 is probably the best one. In terms of other games I've played, I've kind of probably touched upon them a little bit already. But things like things if you can get them, but they're so cheap now. Both of the first 2 Max Payne games were brilliant, and still I think are definitely worth playing. And other stuff I actually did really enjoy. Oblivion Remastered. I know it has its performance issues and it doesn't run brilliant on the Steam Deck, but it was about good enough for me to want to play through it, and I've put about 40, 50 hours into it. I really enjoyed it, but it definitely should get, called out for it could have been better in terms of the performance, and it's probably going to be just graphics cards getting more powerful and hardware getting more powerful that will kind of fix the issues it has. We'll just be able to brute force ourselves through it eventually. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing that game again with more modern controls and everything. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. I really enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order, kind of a Metroidvania third-person action game, which is probably more on the action than the Metroidvania aspect. The Metroidvania aspect was probably stronger in the first one because for me it was because I got lost a lot. I had to kind of call up a YouTube video. But I didn't find I had to do that as much in the second game. A bit of a bastard to get running well on PC hardware because, again, it was another not great port. But I was able to get it running decently on the Steam Deck. It's actually not supported on the Steam Deck, but I managed to play through the whole game and have a fairly decent experience. And I quite enjoyed it. I think it's probably a bit better than the original. So I definitely recommend that. That's probably the big ones that I'd recommend. I'm probably going to add to it this year. There's some games that I want to work my way through, like RoboCop that you mentioned. Yeah, but yeah, they're the sort of ones for me.
I think I'm looking forward to the there's like an expansion for it now as well. So I think I'll pick that up as well when that's in the sale. It's just the gunplay on there feels sort of really good, and yeah, absolutely loved it. And but what's going to be your most? I think we're probably on the same page of most look forward to game of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
six is a clue of what mine is.
There's obviously Resident Evil 6 already came
Resident
out.
Evil 6, yeah.
Is there a remake? There's the remake coming out for that. There's obviously, GTA 6. If it comes out this year, it's already been delayed again. I'm looking, my PS5 is kind of really gathering dust, to be honest. But I don't really want to get rid of it because I know that's the only way I'm going to be able to play GTA 6. We're not going to see a PC version for maybe a couple of years further down the line from the PS5 version. I'm hoping they're already working on the PC version as adjacent to the console version. I'm pretty sure they did with 5. It was about 18 months later we got it on the PC. I'm hoping that'll be the case again. But I really enjoy the GTA games. Completed. Played around with the sort of the 3D, the early 3D games on like the PS2, and really enjoyed them. Really enjoyed the PSP games. Were probably the ones I actually played the most out of those early 3D era ones. But 4 is still great. I still dip in and out of it every now and then.
That's talking about the Steam Deck. That's brilliant on the Steam Deck. Yeah,
absolutely. It runs great on the Steam Deck. 5 runs really well as well, and I loved that. When the PC version was the one that I kind of played the most, and completed the campaign on that as well. I like those Rockstar open world games. I probably prefer Red Dead Redemption, controversially, to Grand Theft Auto. Really enjoyed Red Dead Redemption 1 on the 360. And Red Dead Redemption 2 I actually played through on the Steam Deck. That runs really well on the Steam Deck and still looks incredible. It's kind of scary to think that game is approaching, 7-8 years old now. And it still feels like a brand new game when you look at it to me. It hasn't really aged one bit. There's that. to be honest, that's the only real game. I kind of will end up discovering more games as the year goes by. But in terms of things to look forward to, I don't think we're going to be seeing any more hardware on the console side. I'm looking forward to maybe more being revealed about, well, I guess we'll probably hear more about things coming out in 2027. Although, we're not entirely sure if we are going to get a PS6 in 2027 because of the RAM-ish, prices and all that crazy economy stuff. That might push back those next-gen consoles. But I would like to think we'll get more information on them, maybe even a full reveal by the end of the year, even if it might be a year after that the things might come out. If I was going to pick one of those, whether it's the new Xbox, which is, well, it's going to be a PC, isn't it, really? The PS6 side of things, it'll probably be the handheld, the PS6 handheld I'm really excited about. Hopefully we'll hear some, it's still a rumor, really. I mean, we haven't had any we kind of know there's going to be a PS6 console. We haven't like confirmed that, but we know it's going to happen. But the PS6 handheld is still maybe slightly. I think it looks like it nearly definitely is. But I would love to see more concrete details on that and what it'll be able to play and not play. I'm hoping it'll just play the next gen games, all of them, and it'll be able to play PS5 and maybe PS4. I think that'll be a great handheld. Interesting to see how it handles buying games. Like, how can this PS4 game that I've got on a disc, how will I be able to play that on my PS6 handheld? Will it just be what's available on the PS Plus service, or will you be able to sort of, I don't know, unlock a game to unlock a download of a game if I stick that disc into a PS6 console, and it'll give me a download for the handheld? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, maybe, but
I'm not holding out hope. That's a bit too generous and customer friendly for a corporate, company to be able to want to do. So yeah,
they might do something what like Nintendo done with like game key cards or something.
Yeah, so that's my hope.
Yeah, they might do something like that. So that'll mean you have to sort of buy games again or buy them anyway.
I'm not do that sure. with.
I think we
do that with PS6 games and maybe PS5 ones, but anything earlier than that, they'll just be like, no, you got to get PS Plus and get the downloads.
Do you know what? In the next year or 18 months, I can't see, with the issue with, because there was a story last week, and I know we always talk about this, but the Steam machine, talking about being $950 and that's for the cheaper one, and we're going, oh God, that's going to be way more than what we were expecting. Just because of sort of the price of RAM and stuff, and I'm thinking, and then there are sort of other videos are going, well, there's going to be no new hardware because of the price of RAM, and that links to the price of graphics cards, and then that links to the price of solid state storage, and so on. So this all sort of builds up to create a little bit of a when's it going to end, really?
Yeah, exactly.
And people, consoles are, no one's going to buy the PlayStation 6 if it's £1,000 or $1,000. It's going to be. So I just think people are going to put things off and off, and I still don't see. I don't see.
We could easily go the whole year, I think, without hearing anything about a PS6. Yeah.
I don't think we will, because I don't feel like the PlayStation 5's really got into its stride yet. Like game wise, it has, but yeah, no one's crying out,
for like, oh my God, the games run so terribly now. No one's really. Also, there are games that aren't super amazingly run, but for the most part. Probably GTA 6 is going to probably push it to the limits, but we're looking at, I think we'll probably end up having 2 or 3 more years of the PS5 being the current gen. We could get to 2028, 2029 before we actually have a PS6 that we can go to the shop and buy. Yeah. Hopefully, the handheld will be about the same time. It may be even simultaneous to the main console. But yeah, I think there's probably just as much. It's probably more likely that we won't hear anything about next gen. So I think the only real hardware to get excited about would be the Steam machine. But and the Steam frame and the Steam controller, that kind of family that kind of got announced together. Hopefully it'll be releasing probably the next 3 or 4 months, but obviously we haven't heard anything about a price. I think it's clear that Valve are very nervous about the price. Otherwise, they would have just said it. They did that with the Steam Deck. They just flat out said how much it would cost pretty much straight away, I think. That wasn't the case here. I think,
but they're probably sitting in a situation where, for us to break even, we've got to sell it for £200 more than what our market research suggests that the market can pay for it. So they know the price they want to sell it for, and they're probably thinking, well, for us to make money off it, it's got to be £200 more than what everyone wants the perceived value, or the how much they think it should sell for, and that they're sitting there going, oh, well, what can we do? How can we?
How much of that are we willing to eat? To get a price
exactly.
down. Yeah.
And will it be a case of, because some people are saying that some things like Half-Life 3 will come packed in on it, or so then you go, oh well, yeah, it's £800 or it's £900, but you get Half-Life 3, and will they slightly market it that way, or so? It'll come with a few games or something. And so it'll be interesting to see how, purely from a marketing point of view, how they're going to sort of tackle the navigating it, because it's going to come out, it's going to be more than what we think it is or what we perceive the value, and everyone's going to go, oh, that's expensive, but if you were to buy all the parts to make an equal PC, it would probably cost more. And I don't know, they're in a very difficult place, really.
Yeah, we had a fairly lengthy discussion when we talked about the Steam Machine in prior shows. So if you haven't heard what our thoughts are on the price, anybody listening, you can jump back into those. But yeah, I mean, in the ideal world where there wasn't weird recessions and overpriced RAM sort of crap, ideally I would probably say the base level Steam Machine probably should be about £400, £500 tops. And then the upper level one should be more like maybe 600, 700, because we're talking about a system that's not as powerful as a base PS5, which is now you can pick one of those up for £300, £400. So it's a tough ask to ask for not for non-cutting edge hardware to be more expensive, and so they're treading a real thin line, and I'm thinking, unfortunately, it's probably going to be. If it's like if the base level one is 700, 800 quid, and then the step up machine is 900, 1,000, I think it's probably going to be, apart from some real hardcore enthusiasts who don't care, I think it's going to be an absolute failure. The Steam Deck was very well priced, and I think everybody sort of really celebrated the price. It was only marginally more expensive than a Switch, for a huge jump in performance.
The Steam Deck, if you buy it brand new today, it is the best deal in gaming. It genuinely is. It's the best. And then if you go on there, you get one in the sale when they do the sale. That's a brilliant. Or you get a refurbished one. That's another deal. And for the machine that you're using primarily as your main machine. And it's probably more powerful than the Switch 2. Loads more games than the Switch 2. Much better. You can do so much more with it, and it's cheaper than the Switch 2. It's honestly, and comparing.
And you can use it as a PC. You can go into desktop mode, word process, make movies, edit them. You can do whatever you want with it.
Exactly, and compared to the other family of and there's I can't even remember the names, they're absolutely ridiculous, but there is sort of Steam Deck type portable gaming consoles.
The Xbox Roggly, yeah.
Well, no, more than that have got what's it? The Strix Halo.
Yeah, the GPD Win 5. Yeah, it was like that insane external battery and
a battery on the back And
PS5 in performance, it actually matches a PS5, but it's like 1,700 quid.
I know,
so
and you think, okay, well, I'll get slightly worse performance. I'll get a Steam Deck, thanks. And you see those, and you think, like, who on earth is going to sort of buy it? And I don't know. They're really.
They're made. They're very niche. They're made in very small quantities, so they do tend to sell out. I don't really know what the sales figures are like for those things, but it's probably like literally maybe tens of thousands, because they're not really supported for a long time either. Like the GPD Win 5 will be dropped like a bag of dirty rags in like 2 years' time when they've got the Jeep, or maybe less when there's a GPD Win 6. And then those people will just sell the previous one and buy the new one for another couple of grand. But yeah, I think they've got to really tread carefully, because I'm not going to spend 900 quid on something that's not as good as a PS5 base PS5. You could potentially, like some of those handhelds, like it's expensive, but you get like a ROG Ally X, on eBay. People are selling those for like 600 quid, and that's not going to be too far away from what the base Steam machine does. In fact, you can get those with a terabyte of storage versus the 512. And the ROG Ally X is only marginally less powerful than the new Xbox ROG Ally X. You're not really, just about 5 or 6 frames you're getting extra in like the new one for paying an extra 400 quid. So to be honest, if you're happy to sort of deal with lower resolutions and slightly worse frame rate, I'll keep my 700 quid and just have that. So it'd be really interesting. That's probably the most interesting thing to come in the next few months. Will be that price announcement, and it would absolutely live or die by whatever price they end up having. I think it's probably going to be bad news. I hope not.
No, I agree. I obviously, but it's just sometimes the people who complain that a PlayStation 5 after 3 years it should be £199 or
they're probably not wrong. They're an older model, admittedly, but economics.
But I just think there's so much more. The way the world is, people almost expecting sort of something for nothing. But and if you want these machines and you want the power, and the same you can say about these £1,500 portable machines is, I'm sort of scoffing at the price because personally,
there's a market there.
I couldn't see myself paying that kind of money for one because the Steam set's so good. And I don't think I'll get a lot of use out of it, sort of paying for that. But some people will, and some people absolutely love it. And there
are Ferraris, and you're like, oh, why'd you bother spending £100,000 on a car when you can get a Fiat through for 500? Yeah, second hand for 900 quid. There's just people that like that stuff and have the money to do it. We could just, why buy a PS5 when the graphics are only slightly better when you can get a second-hand PS4 for 100 quid? There's an argument for all this stuff. But there's the Steam frame as well and the Steam controller. It'll be interesting where they run in terms of cost. So that's probably the big things for me are those. And Stu, I guess as a last thing to discuss, I've sort of mentioned those little bits that I'm looking forward to. Was there anything that you wanted to mention that you're looking forward to, or is it the same stuff?
I think I'm really, I'm sort of really happy with my sort of current gaming setup, and I'm enjoying the Switch 2. I'm enjoying my gaming PC, and I think this has got another year or two left in it before I feel like I might need to upgrade in it. So fingers crossed the prices will come down a bit more by then, or start to come down by then. The Steam Deck, I'd love to see Steam Deck 2.
Me too.
Sort of come out, and I think for me, technology-wise, is I don't really know what I've got, sort of in line to sort of get next, and everything I'm sort of happy with, really.
Same here.
Yeah.
I mean, the Steam machine was potentially something I was gunning for, but if the price is too high, I don't think I will. So that's going to be the price. Is going to be the be all and end all for me. But we'll see. We'll have to see what announcements we hear. But anyway, that has been us talking about the coming year and the stuff we've been doing at the end of last year. We hope you enjoyed it. Stu, where can you find us on the internet?
We're all over the internet. You can find us on our website, consoleshock.net. You can find us on Twitter, search Console Shock. You can find us on YouTube, search Console Shock, and any sort of podcast client, you can find us on there as well. So again, search Console Shock.
Great. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. Thank you for listening as always, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.
Take it easy. Goodbye.